Happy Sunday! Welcome to the Scoop Order. What a magnificent weekend for Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes. They crushed the biggest official visit weekend of the year. We're going to get into all of that. Stars galore. Just a fantastic weekend. Great job by the Ohio State football program showing out, because this could be one of those landmark weekends where it could really reset the roster, add a ton of big time talent at positions of need like running back and always restocking that wide receiver room. So we're going to get into all that as always. We appreciate you guys so much spending your Sunday. I hope you guys had a great Sunday today. Appreciate you guys being in here as always. This is it's a huge show because you guys make it one. We appreciate you guys. It is great to have you here. It is also great for us to be here. So we appreciate you guys kicking it with us as always. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. You're going to alert every time we go live, which is around 7 every night. We're trying to keep it at 7, keep it nice and consistent and easy for you guys. So we just appreciate you guys showing up each and every night. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Shout out to my Southern Ohio boys, as always. Shout out to all of our Scoop Ultra members as well. Thank you guys for really helping the channel grow and expand. Again, your contributions are huge for our Pay It Forward. We signed up some new members today on BuckeyeScoop.com. You guys know who you are. We appreciate you guys taking the leap into the #1 Ohio State fan message board VIP experience in existence. Again, it's awesome. Once you guys are on there, you never leave. It's so fun, and we appreciate you guys. In the comments, I want to know, what recruit do we need to lock down from this weekend? Who are you most excited about with all the buzz that we're going to get into? I need the names. Is it DK Moore? Is it Bo Jackson? Talk to me. Put it in the chat, and let's hear it. Gonna bring in my good friend Nevadabuck. Nevada, stellar weekend for the Buckeyes. Dakorien Moore, obviously the headliner. Bo Jackson, it looks like he jumped in the ship. Vernell Brown. A lot of guys are jumping in the boat right now. It's looking really good for the Bucks. This offense is going to be as nasty as ever. What are your thoughts after week 1 of official visits, which might actually be our biggest weekend? It definitely is from a skill position standpoint. But your thoughts?
Well, from an execution standpoint, I think it was the best executed weekend that Ohio State maybe's ever had. They're really, really dialing in the recruiting weekend stuff. They're really, really operating at a high level. And, we have a great insider on our board, helping technician, who I go to on this stuff because he's kind of, let's just say, he participates in this stuff and can really give you an idea of when things go well, when things don't go as well. And let me tell you, things don't always go as planned. And there's lots of things that can hamper a recruiting weekend. We've talked about stuff that can hamper it in season, like a loss or time of game or whatever it might be. Out of season, it could be weather, it could be travel delays, and there's just a million things that can go wrong. And nothing went wrong this weekend. Everything was perfectly executed, was pulled off. It was just enough kids that they felt like there was a VIP crowd there, but not so many that everybody didn't get their individual attention. And helping technician had a nice nugget on our board about who he thinks is in the class and who he'd kind of grown closest to over the weekend. And I'll tease a little bit of it, but he thinks Bo Jackson's in. And I know people were talking about Bo Jackson and Georgia. There's rumblings about stuff. I've always thought that this was going to be a 3 running back class. And you say, why 3 running backs in Nevada? And say, well, because of Tony Alford malpractice for so many years, where you left us with a room. I mean, once you get past Trey and Quinshawn are done. They're not coming back after this year. So who do you have left? I mean, you've got Peoples and Sam Dixon Williams. I mean, you don't have much in the room. So bringing in 3, as crazy as that sounds, I think they got to do it. I think that's Isaiah West. I think that's Jordan Davison, and I think it's Bo Jackson. And you get those 3 guys. That's 3 quality running backs. You need running backs, especially with a 16 or 17 game schedule. Especially with the expanded playoff, especially with the way that Chip Kelly likes to run the football. So I think that's a potential huge get for Ohio State. look, with all these things, we don't have to say this because everybody's intelligent, everybody's adults here. Nothing's done until it's done. But let me tell you, it sounds like it's about as done as it can be with Bo Jackson. I think Ohio State actually did a spectacular job. We've talked about the job they did with Vernell Brown. Yeah, I think he's another one that's in the boat. And then the one that everybody's wondering about DK Moore. I think we're going to be really tough to beat. There's not a commitment there, but I really think that Ohio State set the standard. They set the standard with the visit. They set the standard with the NFL opportunities, and they set the standard in terms of what they could do with him from an NIL stand, a branding and marketing standpoint. And like I said, Ohio State is operating at a high level right now. They were able to lock down the in-state kid, Justin Hill. That'll be a commitment. I believe that's coming July 3rd when he's announcing. That'll be an announcement for the Buckeyes. But Ohio State just had a great weekend all the way around with the big dogs. And nice job by Ryan Day and the group. And I got to tip my hat to them because they pulled it off.
Yeah, I thought that they do things the right way. And honestly, it takes a little bit of time to get everything dialed in. Obviously, the core group, Mark D'Antoni and those guys have been there for 10, 12 years. It helps, Brian Hartline went to school here, and James Laurinaitis went to school here. Tim Walton went to school here. So that adds a layer of authenticity to things. But, it helps that they have a great place in Town Hall to take these kids to. If they want to take them on Saturday, good place to have lunch. Like, we didn't have that as much when we were down there. It's just everything is kind of seamless at this point. They kind of know where they're going. The coaches are comfortable there. They've got great partnerships with Town Hall, with Hyde Park. And I think that the players do a really nice job of making the kids feel at home, expressing kind of their why they made the move. Because when you get a team that's as national as we are now, we never used to be this national, but we're a national group now in terms of we have a ton of kids from South Florida. I mean, and I know that we had guys like Gamble and Jenkins and those types of guys from South Florida, or excuse me, from Tampa and from Dillard, which is where Gamble went in South Florida. But we've got way more now, and you gotta when you look at some of these kids like Riley Pettijohn, I mean, you've got Peyton Pierce just came from Texas. Riley Pettijohn's the number one linebacker on our board right now. He's a monster player. And he's a guy that I think that is coveted by Jim Knowles and James Laurinaitis and that group. And, when you have a kid who just came from Texas and then you got Riley Pettijohn right behind him, I think it makes it a lot easier to say, hey, I love it up here. It's great. Football's really important here. The city's great. A lot of opportunity. The culture is great. And this team's built for long-term success. So I think that you got to give kudos to the current players, the young players. I think they're always your best ambassadors. But when you look at what NIL has done for some of these young kids and how they talk about how it helps take care of their mom, their sister, their family, hey, it makes it easier to come up. The NIL has been really strong. So when you're talking about a guy like Dakorien Moore, you got to come correct with that. And our NIL group, specifically the foundation, they've been really, really sharp. They've sharpened their pencils. They've done really good, and we're very, very tough to go against, which is great. Because again, when you land a guy like J.J. Smith, it's real easy to get a kid like Dakorien Moore when you get a guy like J.J. Smith the year prior. You look at the pathway, the success way, the monorail to the NFL from the Zone 6 Brian Hartline wide receiver room to that top part of the first round. They've done it. Texas has not done that. Texas is our biggest competition. Texas, they can hand out Lamborghinis and do whatever, Lamborghini leases. They don't get to keep them. But, they put Xavier Worthy in this past year, which is nice. But, other than Roy Williams, like they have not had a ton of success with that wide receiver room. Nothing even close to what Ohio State's never had. There's never been a run in the history of college football like Ohio State wide receivers right now. So I don't know why you would consider elsewhere. It's kind of like, when John Calipari was at his zenith with Kentucky, and every year he was putting 4 or 5 guys in the lottery. Like that's what Brian Hartline's on. Like if you're that dude and you're trying to develop, become the best player you can be, the best person you can be, get a good degree, great fan base, have a great experience, and then also be a high level NFL player. like, zone six and Brian Hartline's where you need to go. And I think Dakorien sees that. And when you see, you walk in that Woody Hayes, and they've got the jerseys of the recent first round picks, like they're all people that have played in the last 6-7 years. It's not like they have jerseys from 1975 hanging up on the walls, and like they all of the faces that are on the sides of the little photos and murals they put inside the Woody Hayes, like they're all like guys from the last 7-8 years. So again, the recency I think really helps Ohio State in recruiting, and the way that they've done it at every position is something that between Urban Meyer and Ryan Day is something that it's a run that we've never seen before, because you can literally point at every single position and there's been like a high level, high first round Pro Bowl type guy been put in the league. And then there's also been guys that have just been really good players. Like Pete Warner is a great player. But Ryan Shazier was a guy that was a Pro Bowler. You go defensive end, obviously the Bosa's and Chase Young. The back end, you've got corners galore. You've got Marshawn Lattimore. Safeties have been fantastic. You got Paris Johnson, DeWan. You got C.J. Stroud. I mean, really, the guy that helps a lot is C.J. Stroud, just because he's going to be the face of the NFL probably within 3 years or so, 3-4 years. It'll be him and Mahomes, and they'll be battling for the AFC Championship every year. So, when you've got the biggest stars in the NFL are guys that recently played at Ohio State, they're young players. I think it really helps with these official visits. Nevada, I've been playing Bo Jackson in the background. We've played his film. Obviously, Dakorien more. It looks like Justin Hill's in. I mean, the linebacker class looks really good. Something that was interesting is that Devin Sanchez, who's going to be one of those guys that turns into like a fan favorite, he came up unofficially with his parents to help recruit, which I think is amazing, because that's on their own dime. And they don't have to do that, but they're doing it to kind of help further the cause. Again, with like DK Moore, Tavian St. Clair was there, Eli Lee was there. So you got all these kids that aren't on official visits that are kind of helping out and recruit. Talk a little bit about that and in the culture of trying to help grow the class when there's some big time kids in. Because again, obviously, when you've got a kid from Texas and Devin Sanchez, and you've got some superstars like Riley Pettijohn and Dakorien Moore from Texas, like I think that it's interesting that him and his parents happen to come up and all connect with the parents of 2 5-star caliber kids from Texas.
Well, again, obviously, I'm gonna be Captain Obvious here, but that wasn't by accident. That wasn't by happenstance. And the Sanchez family is just an absolute recruiting monster family. Up and down that group, they've been unbelievable. And I want to amplify a couple things you said that were really, really spot on and really, really, I think underrated points. When you have players in the NFL that the young players today all recognize and know the names of, that's completely different than talking about, taking the trip down memory lane and talking about Archie Griffin or Paul Warfield or Chick Harley or anything else like that. When these kids they all know who the players are, and they all know Garrett Wilson, and they all know Chris Olave, and they all know C.J. Stroud. I mean, it's so helpful when Ohio State's had this recent run of success that they can go to those kids. And then when they come here to visit, when you've got existing recruits, and most importantly, when you've got existing players talking about what a great experience it is, and how Ohio State lives up to their commitments, lives up to their promises, over delivers in terms of their development path. There's no better than that peer-to-peer selling that's going on, and it really speaks to the great culture that Ohio State has in the room right now, because not every school has that. And I've experienced it firsthand on a much lower level, but when you talk, you can always talk to the players and find out about the coach and find out about the program and find out about the facilities. And if they're bad mouthing it, man, it's hard to get through that. And when a kid goes, man, they'll tell you one thing and then they'll do something else. Man, that's tough. That's tough for any school to recover from with a recruit. And Ohio State doesn't have that issue. Ohio State has done a great job. Ryan Day has done a great job in terms of making sure that Ohio State is living up to the promise. Even when they might have mucked them up a little bit with some of the NIL collectives, they're coming through in terms of making sure that they're getting stuff done, making sure that all promises are kind of accounted for, making sure that everything that they've said to these kids, they're going to get done to the degree that they can. And I think that's why the recruiting's going so well. And that's why it's so helpful to have those kids there telling the story, and that's why it's unbelievably great to have other top-notch recruits that are firmly in the camp out there doing the selling. And that's dad doing selling to dad, moms doing selling to moms, and kids doing selling to kids. And the Sanchez family being up there, when they're out there tweeting about how the best in Texas got to make their own decisions and got to follow their own path. That's directly pointed at Dakorien Moore. That is a thing that Dakorien Moore is saying, hey, you don't have to go to Texas. There's other paths for you. There's other paths that may be more productive. And for a wide receiver, there's no better. I'm not saying it's risky for a wide receiver to go to Texas, but it's a heck of a lot less risky for any wide receiver to go to Ohio State, just based upon recent history. And the amount of success that we've had has been absolutely obscene. It borders any position group, in any stretch for anywhere. I mean, you're talking about the legendary USC, quarterback recruiting, or pick a group, pick a college, pick a period of time, and then compare it to the Ohio State wide receiver recruiting. I mean, Ohio State might be the best of all time in terms of doing this. And the sad thing about that is it never lasts forever. So the cautionary tale to us as a fan is, man, enjoy it while it's here, because it won't last forever. It never does. It can't sustain itself indefinitely. But man, when we're in the middle of it right now, I'm going to enjoy every weekend. And this was a great weekend for it. And I think Ohio State took another couple of steps forward, not only on that wide receiver recruiting, but in other things as well. And this was a very, very positive weekend for Ohio State.
Yeah, and so I got Riley Pettijohn's film on right now, and he is the number one linebacker on Ohio State's board. This kid is he's special. He's 6'2", 205, which is perfect. 205 might seem slight, but when you get to Ohio State, it would get up to about 225, 230, which is perfect for a spread linebacker, speed guy. But this kid has got a lot of range, a lot of effort. Really tough. I love watching this kid's film. I've watched it a few times. I figured I'd throw it on for you guys. Yeah, I think that something that is interesting is when you have these parents that take a vested interest in recruiting kids, and they're not necessarily kids at their same position. Like the Sanchez family, like them coming up, it's like, it's a different. It's different. Like if you're like, say my kid is like some superstar quarterback. Say my kid is like CJ Stroud, and you got DK, and my kid's a freshman, and DK Moore and superstar receivers coming up. Like I could see taking a big interest in that and saying, hey, it's gonna make my kid's life a lot easier if he has a big time tight end, a couple big time receivers like DK Moore, good offensive tackle, whatever. But like, Sanchez's family, like it's a cornerback, and they're coming up and helping recruit linebackers and receivers and stuff that, from a holistic measure, will make the team much better. Because again, everything is easier when you have great players everywhere. Like life's a lot harder when you can't score points and you can't stop anybody. So, but I think that it speaks to the culture, and it speaks to people really believing in the program. Again, like the shining star, maybe the greatest parent in Ohio State history might be Monica Daniels, who's perished. She was Monica Johnson, recently married, so I call her Monica Daniels. But I always like to clarify that, because sometimes people are like, well, who's Daniels? I was like, Paris Johnson's mom puts in work. And I mean, I'm talking about, like, when you talk about big time left tackles, like the person that is the GOAT at helping recruit is Monica, because her son was the prototype. Her son was 3 and out, top 6 pick, living a great life, kind of got everything on rails right now. He's going to keep his nose to the grindstone, but he had the career that every single kid wants to have at Ohio State. 3 and out, graduate. Again, Paris graduated. Like, again, that's as important as it is to be a top 6 pick, which is honestly much more important than graduating, because you can come back and graduate when you're 40. That's what I always tell these guys. I'm like, look, if you can go. You can come back and take online school when you're 40 years old and get your piece of paper to go be an accountant or whatever, which is great. Again, I'm not denigrating it, but you only have so long to go make money in the league, and then you can go be an accountant for the rest of your life afterwards, or do whatever, work in finance, whatever. But the parents don't really have a huge vested interest the way like the coaches do. the personnel people do, to a lesser extent the current players do. But when you see like the sheer volume, and again, they're not just, it's not like they're just making a phone call. Like they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're literally flying up and helping recruit. So I mean, they're spending thousands of dollars to get hotel rooms, plane, eating up their entire weekend to come help. And so that's what speaks volumes to me about Ryan Day's culture, about the culture of the program, that people want to like roll their sleeves up and go like, hey, let's go try and help get DK Moore. Let's go try and get Riley Pettijohn. Let's go try to make this class the number one class of all time, which it could be. I mean, you get, a couple of these guys, again, when you're right in the thick of it, if you knock a couple dominoes over and all of a sudden you get DK Moore and you get David Sanders Jr. and you get Riley Pettijohn, then all of a sudden you're just like, oh God, how high is this thing going to go? Is this thing going to break all of the records for the composites? It could. Because again, like, you can say, oh, you're crazy. There's no way we're going to get Jamie French. I'm like, well, Brian Hartline's gotten basically every receiver he's ever wanted. And all of the ones that didn't come to Ohio State regretted it because they didn't get developed. They didn't go as high as they could have in the draft. And they're probably sitting there like, man, I had a chance. I had a golden ticket from Brian Hartline to go to Ohio State, get developed, go to the league, make a fortune, and live the great life. And instead I went elsewhere for some cheap NIL deal or some stupid reason. And I don't see, I think people are starting to learn from the mistakes. Because I think that the way Brian's recruiting and the way he's developing and the way that room just keeps compounding, and the guys talk about that room, the guys like Marvin and the guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson and Olave, it's like, and the way that those guys, the thing that's going to really springboard everything with that room, because it's already at like an incredible height right now, is a lot of these guys are about to start getting their second contracts. So like Garrett Wilson is going to be getting like $30 million a year. Chris Olave is going to be getting $30 million a year. JMO, we'll see what JMO gets. He kind of counts, sort of, kind of. Obviously Marvin's got 3 more years to go, but when these guys start re-upping, that's the time where you start making the recruiting bulletins, the recruiting flyers. Like when Nick Bosa re-ups for like $160 million, like, ooh boy, let's get to the Photoshop machine and go print that thing out and put it on Twitter, send it to these kids, do the mailers, like, and that's about to start happening. And heaven forbid what's going to happen when CJ re-ups, because CJ will have the richest deal in NFL history when he resigns, and that'll be a good day for Ohio State recruiting. But again, I'm just excited about what we've heard, the people we've talked to, the NIL collective information that I got. I mean, what a grand slam of a weekend for the Buckeyes. And we'll get into some super chats. Nevada, any other thoughts?
No, just again, said this before, but look, they don't always go this way. Sometimes recruiting weekends are tough, and sometimes kids feel slighted. Sometimes things just get off on a bad foot. Things get behind, and but this one, it just felt like everything was just the way it was supposed to. Everything was happening the way it was supposed to, when it was supposed to, and when that happens, there's typically good results at the end. And so, but again, big compliments to Ryan Day and the entire staff on a great weekend. Well done, guys. Regardless of actually what happens, because we won't know that, for whatever time. But I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to look back on this weekend very fondly and talk about this one. I don't say being a turning point because things have been going good all the time, but just another positive data point for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yeah, and like a thing I always look at is, say we don't get a kid or two. I mean, we still just keep like pile driving forward. Like I talked about way back machine, but like, in my class in 03, like we didn't get Prescott Burgess and we didn't get Sean Crable and we didn't get whoever. And it was like, did we miss them? Like, was the program able to survive without those guys? Yeah, we actually, and we beat them every time we played them, which was the funniest part ever. So, again, but I like where we're at. I love where we're at, and I'm really excited to see what we can get done this year. All right, we're gonna get some super chats rolling. If you guys have questions, send the super chat. Send those goes into our Pay It Forward fund. We signed up a bunch of new members this weekend. Veterans, police officers, first responders. Again, you guys are taking care of them, so thank you for all that you do. Again, we're very, very pro country and pro first responders, pro military. because they deserve it. They take care of us. So we appreciate you guys helping take care of them. Cordero Jackson, thank you for the 10. How do people view the cheaters up north to have a good defense this year when they were only good because they knew the play was coming? Will Johnson will get burned this year versus Texas, Oregon, OSU, Nevada, OH. I'll let you take this first, Nevada, because I feel like I've been talking a lot. So your thoughts on that? Why do people think that the cheaters up north will have a good defense this year?
I think they're good. I think they're a good defense. I think the reason people say that is because they've got good players. I mean, they got two really good defensive tackles, and Will Johnson's a really good cornerback. And I think when you have that, when good players generally make for good results, that's the foundation of a good defense. Will their defense be as good as it was last year? I don't think there's any chance it'll be as good as it was last year. And they were number one in the country last year, and yeah, I tip my hat to them. How much of the cheating matter? Well, it was more than zero. So I think it'll certainly have an impact on them. I think the biggest thing though is just losing the entire defensive staff, losing the coordinator and the defensive line coach and the secondary. I mean, they lost everything on the defensive side, and that typically leads to more difficult results. So I think it'll be mitigated by some of the fact that they've got some good players on that side. But every year there's a team that takes a step back, a steeper step back than people think, and you never know who it's going to be before the season. But I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be Michigan. I think that's going to be the team that takes that precipitous fall. We know they're going to be worse than last year, but I think they're going to be a lot worse than last year. I think a lot of that's going to be in the offensive side, but I think they're going to be worse on defense too. And is it due to the cheating? Partially. I mean, I'm a defensive coach. I've coached defensive football for years. If you just tell me before every play whether it's going to be a run or a pass, man, I'd be 80% better calling defense. I don't even need to know what direction it's going. Heaven forbid you tell me if it's run or pass and what direction it's going, then I'm like 99% better. But yeah, so it definitely made a difference for them. But they've got some good players. Those two defensive tackles are legit, and the cornerback is really good. But I think they're going to have some hard times, and I think Quinn Ewers is going to light them up week 2 of the season. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, Mason Graham is realistically a top 3 to 5-ish player in the Big Ten. I mean, he's preseason All-American on every list. There was a draft thing that had him like going second overall. Now, again, a lot can change. He's legit. Kenneth Grant, very, very good for a nose guard. I think Will Johnson is probably going to be the first cornerback drafted next year. So, again, they have good parts. And again, it's Michigan. Like, Michigan has basically always been great on defense except for when they had the Rich Rod era. So, are they going to be formidable? Yeah. Are they going to be maybe the best defense we see all year? They could be. I mean, Oregon's got a lot of talent, but, I would, if it's not these guys, then I guess it could be Oregon. But, Michigan, they're going to be tough. Now, I know that they cheated, which I totally agree, and they're going to get smacked for it. But, this year with none of the cheating, you still got to block the 2 interior guys. They're really good. I think Chip Kelly will have a plan for him. I think Chip Kelly's going to get outside on these guys. It's going to be a lot like what we did against Alabama in 2014, where we realized where their strength was, which was right up the middle. And against Bama, when they had Allen, the guy that plays for the Redskins, who signed for like $80 million on his second deal, and Deron Payne, they had like legit interior guys, Ashawn Robinson. We went on the edge and we shredded them. We made those guys run left to right. We didn't just run right at the teeth of the defense, because there's nothing that drives me crazier in the history of football than when you know that a team has a great player, or a great player and then a good player. Because Mason Graham is a great player. Grant is a good player. But combined, like, you can't let those two guys beat you. It's like when a team like decides that they're going to like single block like Reggie White or Aaron Donald or JJ Watt or Nick Bosa. And they're like, well, we're just going to let him, out on an island versus our tackle, and hopefully he can get it done. And they get shredded. It's coaching malpractice. So if you let those 2 interior guys beat you, that's coaching malpractice, because that's their 2 best guys by far. So get on the edge, do what Chip Kelly does. Chip Kelly loves to find matchups and exploit them. He's as good as there's ever been at it. And again, if you're our interior guys, like Donnie Jackson is going to try to be, probably a second day player. It's hard to be a first round pick as a guard just because, guard isn't really a highly valued position. There's some, but, that's going to be the matchup that's going to make his draft stock is going against those two guys. Same with Seth McLaughlin, Carson Hinsman, Luke Montgomery, whoever the interior guys are. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we do against those guys. But they've got legit guys, like again, but they've lost a ton. They lost their nickelback, who I think was one of the best players in the country. Their one end went pro like an idiot, didn't get drafted. And again, they lost their DC. They lost basically their whole defensive coaching staff. They lost Jim Harbaugh. And again, I think that a big reason why their defense was so physical and so dominant last year was because they had a great offensive line to go against. And that offensive line pulverized teams. So it kept the defense off the field. They had to defend fewer plays. So by that happening, they gave up fewer points. So their statistics were very, very sparkly and gaudy because they didn't have to defend as much because that offense would control the ball, ground and pound, and the defense would be nice and fresh. And again, it's a real systematic way to win football. I mean, really what it is it's trestle ball back in the olden days. I know everybody hated trestle ball, but we used to beat the tar out of teams, and it helped our defense play even better because they were fresher. So again, do I want to go back to winning games 10-3? Not really, but I like winning however you have to win. And that's like the thing about football is whatever style you need to come up with is always strong for what you're doing. Tyler, Kirsty, thank you for the 10. Kirk in Nevada, I want to talk to you guys about how Michigan fans continually think about how their coaching staff and everyone leaving will not reflect on the field in their eyes. Also, OH. That is the dumbest thing I think I've ever... I mean, as dumb as Michigan's beat is, that is the dumbest thought I've ever heard in my life. That, like, losing Jim Harbaugh is not going to matter. And again, Wayback Machine, Kirk is here in the building. In 2011, they fired Jim Tressel on Memorial Day. We also lost Terrell Pryor. So we lost basically a guy that potentially could have been a first-round pick quarterback. And we lost, one of the top 3 coaches in Ohio State history. And our staff couldn't have been more shook. Now, also, we knew we're getting fired at the end of the year. But, we went from a team that was projected top 5, beat the Sugar Bowl, went down to SEC country, beat Arkansas. Terrell's coming back, feeling real good. A lot of seniors on that O-line with Brewster and Mike Adams and DeVere and all that. To, we lose the best player in the country in Terrell Pryor, and we lose Jim Tressel. So our team was devastated by not having our leader. And, Jim Harbaugh built that entire ship, built that entire program. And we're going to see what Sherrone Moore's made of. Again, I know that he won. He had a couple of pinch hit singles where he was able to beat Penn State and beat us, where Jim Harbaugh basically loaded the bases up and made it real easy on him. But I'm just telling you, man, Michigan is not the kind of job that you want to learn on the fly at. I mean, it's a lot like Ryan Day early in his career at Ohio State. Like, he didn't get the opportunity to go coach at Toledo or Buffalo or Kansas or Central Michigan or Central Florida. He went right to the big leagues. He went right to the top of the food chain because of Urban. He was sitting in the right place at the right time. He got the right referral from Chip Kelly, and he got handed the keys to, the Ferrari. And there's been some times where he's driven it off the side of the road, but there's been some times where he's corrected and he's looked really good. And again, he's, with the moves he's made this offseason, I don't know how he can't be a believer in what he's doing. I mean, you got Chip Kelly. I mean, we destroyed everybody in the transfer portal. This is the strongest roster in the history of Ohio State football, in my opinion, the most talented, from top to bottom that I've ever seen. And you have the best play caller in college football history in Chip Kelly taking the reins to let Ryan actually be a head coach and not have to do 50 jobs. So I think that if a Michigan fan is dumb enough to think that losing Jim Harbaugh will not matter, then honestly, that's so stupid. I don't even have words for it. And I don't think there's anything I can do to save that person. So again, you can't save them all. If they're that stupid, because Jim Harbaugh, what did he get? $25 million a year from the LA Chargers. I mean, the guy took the 49ers to the Super Bowl. He made Stanford good. Like, you know how hard it is to make Stanford football good when every kid has to be a valedictorian or it has to be a 3.0 kid, and you're not going to get any South Florida Express kids to go to Stanford. You know, I mean, you're not going to get, I mean, it's like Notre Dame on Saturday. Like, Notre Dame's a terrible job. Like, you can't get kids from certain areas to go to Notre Dame to visit, let alone go to Stanford to go play football. Like, I mean, that, and he won there. So when people want to tell me that he's not a good football coach and it doesn't matter that he's gone, that's insanity. Nevada, your thoughts, Tyler. And again, that's a great question. Thank you for the 10. Kirk, Nevada, I want to talk to you guys about how Michigan fans continually think about how their coaching staff and everyone leaving will not reflect on the field in their eyes. Your thoughts, Nevada.
Well, look, I've always said, if you listen to this show or you've been on the websites with me for years, I've always said, because I believe this with all my heart, that coaching is almost determinative of success at the college football level. And what I mean by that is that good coaches find a way to win everywhere, and that coaching isn't easy. And that if it was easy, they wouldn't be paying these guys the obscene amounts of money, to do these jobs. And we've just seen program after program where the guy leaves and the next guy comes in, and it's not quite as easy. It's not just plug and play. Ask Miami about that when Larry Coker came in there and they shoved him in there and thinking, well, we'll just win 19 more championships, and it doesn't work that way. And I don't believe that it's going to work that way with Sharon Moore. I believe that if Michigan is successful this year, everything that I've known about college football is a lie. And I believe that there are certain formulas that go on to winning football, and continuity is a big part of it. Returning experience is a big part of it. Schedule is a big part. I mean, a lot of things have to fall into place for you to have a good season, and none of that is true for Michigan this year. So for Michigan fans, the best thing you say is, hey, look, the good news is all is going to be revealed. We'll know. I mean, if Michigan runs the table and goes 12-0 in the regular season or wins the big, whatever, then they can stand up and spike the football and go, see, Nevada, you were wrong. It didn't matter. Jim Harbaugh didn't matter. We've just got the culture where we take 2-star kids and turn them into 5-star players because it's the Michigan magic that we sprinkle on them, and they all become wonderful. I mean, we'll find out this year. I don't think that's the way it works. I think their cheating was really that was the magic that turned Michigan from the team that literally tapped out of a game in 2020 against Ohio State to national champions. So, but that's gone. Harbaugh's gone, and we all get to watch them suffer this year. So, but we'll see soon enough.
Well, I think coaching is impossibly important at the college level. Again, you go 2011 to 2012, we go from 6-7 with Luke. And Luke wasn't ready for that job, and we didn't have our quarterback. And Braxton took his lumps, and congrats to Braxton Miller. He's in the Ohio State Hall of Fame, very well deserved. A guy that carried the program on his back for multiple seasons. But Urban shows up, and it couldn't be more night and day coaching staff, because I was in both staff rooms, and it was like, it was Full Metal Jacket every day. And again, when you're a guy like me who sat and got demolished by the Florida Gators in a title game, and they actually have a chance to learn from the exact same head coach exactly how they did things and their culture, and how they just absolutely destroy every single day and crush everything in their path. You're like, oh wow, no wonder you guys are so good. This is crazy. I love this. This is awesome. Now, it's tough and it's hard. It's miserable. It's not cool and relaxing and calm and everybody, sings Kumbaya. But man, when I was like, I can't wait to see what we do to other teams, because we're about to kill each other every day. The coaching staffs are ready to kill each other. The players are ready to kill each other. So when they open that cage door up and all of a sudden we get to run out in the horseshoe, we were going to kill anything in our paths, because that's how we were trained. And again, I like that. And that was a total culture shift from Tress. I think it's different from what Ryan does. But coaching, again, what we're going to find out, there's going to be some pretty some marked areas where you can figure out, does coaching matter? Because I think in college football, coaching matters more than any other sport. I think more than the NFL, more than the NBA, more than the NHL. any sport. And again, I'm not denigrating other professions, college basketball, but you look at Georgia under Mark Richt. He had some of the most talented teams in the history of college football, some of the greatest players, guys that were just looked like super mutants, like Todd Gurley, some of the defensive tackles they had. I mean, Urban Meyer used to always joke, like, if Georgia ever got a monster in that building to run the show, they would be like unstoppable. And guess what happened? They got a monster. They got Kirby Smart. What happens? 2 straight national titles, and then their bowl game last year. They could have beat anybody last year. They won their bowl game like 77-10 versus a depleted Florida State team. But you know, Mark Richt had the same talent roughly that Kirby did. Kirby amped it up a little bit, and oh my God, are they good? Bama sucked forever between Bear Bryant and they had a little run in the early 90s, but it was like 20 years of just suck. Nick Saban shows up in 07, builds a juggernaut, and they're dominating. They're the greatest dynasty in college football history, and now he's gone. So now we're going to see if coaching matters, or if the Alabama elephant roll tides can just throw the helmets out there and it's the same type of results that it was under Nick Saban, because I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to even be close, honestly. And I think that a lot of these schools regress to me. And again, the last example I'll give is probably the best example ever is Florida. Florida under Spurrier, very, very good. Under Ron Zook, stinks. Urban, they turn into a juggernaut. They basically reshape and transform college football by how he did everything: offense, recruiting, just a psychopath walking down there. And then, he leaves there, and they've sucked ever since. And they tried to bring it back with Dan Mullen, who was in the Urban Meyer tree. Didn't work. I swear to God, they've had like 6 coaches since he left, and they've all sucked. And this guy they got now is about to get fired too. So coaching is impossibly important. And it'll be interesting to see if Sherrone Moore's still the head coach in 5 years at Michigan, because I think in about 3, he's going to be toast, and they're going to want to whitewash that thing and go get a whole new program in there. Cade Weston, thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being an Ultra member. The Sanchezes are a great family. Miss Sanchez is amazing. Right next to Monica for me. Yeah, I think that every now and again you find these families that are it's not that only that they can talk the talk, but they can walk the walk. And Monica, like I've talked at length about Monica Daniels, and she had a plan. She executed it. She's almost someone that like Ohio State should probably just hire as like a consultant on how to be. I mean, really, like if she wouldn't want to do that grind of being the recruiting whatever there, but she should be on the payroll, I think. I can't imagine a better ambassador for Ohio State who could help more in recruiting weekends and talking to parents and go out to the dinners and whatever. And, but that's just my opinion. Cause I mean, she's as good of an ambassador as there is for Ohio State football in terms of what it's done for her son. I believe his daughter goes there. Like it's about as good as it gets. So, yeah, but I totally agree with you. Nevada Cade, Weston, again, thanks for being an Ultra member. Thank you for the 20. Says the Sanchezes are a great family. Mrs. Sanchez is amazing. Right next to Monica for me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's like you said, the peer-to-peer selling, the parent-to-parent selling, it's so valuable because these are such big decisions that you're making, and everybody wants to validate their decision by talking to other people in similar situations that can kind of share similar experiences, talk about their decision tree, what were the factors that they went, and how they came up with their conclusion. And when you find those people and you find that you're like-minded, you find that you have stuff in common with them, then it's just natural that you want to make a similar decision that they made. And, that just validates everything. So having quality people like that had such a positive outcome. I mean, Monica, look, she had a plan, but Ohio State had a plan also. And I think both of them are very, very satisfied with the results. I don't think either one of them would look at it and kind of go, we kind of mucked it up. We didn't do our part, or we didn't execute the way that we wanted to, or things didn't come out quite the way that we thought they would. I think they would both say, wow, we give each other an A+. So having her around, having the Sanchez's around, you're talking about one of the, if not the top player in Texas coming to Ohio State. And that's never a small thing. That's never an insignificant matter. So to have an out-of-state kid that's taking a leadership role. I mean, you expect that from Tavian St. Clair, a local kid, to take that leadership role. The quarterback, the Ohio kid, talking about Ohio State. But when it's a kid from Texas doing it, it just carries that much more weight because they weren't born into it; they chose this, and I just think that's that's a very powerful selling tool, and I appreciate them both very much.
And I think honestly something that really helps us is it makes James Laurinaitis really unique is that he came from Minnesota. So he wasn't, a dyed in the wool Buckeye with, the Ohio State little baby helmet on from the time he was born. I mean, he came from Wayzata, which, he played hockey and, 3-star and, nobody was shooting off fireworks when he committed, but, he was a grinder. He ascended. He passed a lot of guys that were rated ahead of him, and he ended up being one of the greatest Buckeyes who's ever lived. So I think that adding him to the fold, it helps with knocking down the walls of the distance thing, because the distance thing, it matters more to some kids than others. But I think that with James recruiting Texas the way he's recruiting, he can say, hey, look, I made a sacrifice 4 years at Ohio State, changed my life forever. Ended up, should have been a first-round pick. It was like he went I think the first or second pick of the second round. But it's kind of set him up for life, to the point where he'll likely eventually be the defensive coordinator here and then potentially the head coach here. And it's all because he decided to make the leap of faith and leave home and not go to Minnesota, which again, obviously there's a big delta between Minnesota football and Ohio State football. But some of these kids they're homebodies. I mean, we lost Jonah Persig to Minnesota, which is hilarious to me still to this day that an offensive tackle picked the Minnesota Golden Gophers over Ohio State. But some kids are just such mama's boys they can't get away from it, which again, it's fine. I mean, we didn't miss out on him. He didn't end up doing anything major in the league or anything, but it is still a factor. And I'm just like I said, I'm excited to see a lot of the good stuff that's going on around here. Jim Jackson, what's up, my Florida State Seminole brother? I hope you're doing good. You and Kim representing for Florida State every single night on here. Thank you for the 10, my friend. 2025 edge rusher Isaiah Gibson is committed to USC, but is scheduled to take an official visit to Ohio State in June. Any chance he flips? Keep up the great work, fellas. Nevada OH.
I
Well, I always think there's a chance, if these kids are coming to Columbus in the middle of the summer, like they're not, they're coming here to talk business and they're coming here to see, is this the place for me? Because again, I don't know why on earth any player would ever go to USC who plays defense. Like if you're a quarterback, I get it with Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams and the guys that Lincoln Riley's tutored and put into the league at, as number 1 overall picks. I get it as a quarterback, but man, like, are you crazy? I mean, if you're an edge rusher and you're considering going to SC, did you watch their defense at all last year? I mean, I don't know. It's almost amazing that that's the same program that I knew back then. But he's a kid. He's from Georgia. I'm gonna toss him up on the screen here for you guys. But he, I don't know. I mean, I think with LJ having a 2-year extension, that doesn't hurt. I think the depth chart is going to be very enticing because you're going to lose your 2 starting edge rushers for sure. A 6'5" kid, 240. I mean, I think he's just doing his diligence, but there's always a chance with our NIL the way it's cooking, and with Larry Johnson. Get him around JT2 and Maloa, get him around Jack Sawyer. Those guys that develop, those guys will be high, probably first, second round type picks next year. There's always a chance. Nevada, your thoughts on Isaiah Gibson, who is committed to SC to play defense, which is almost an oxymoron in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, the word around USC is he's gone. That he's, I don't know if he's going to go to Ohio State. I think the word out of USC that he's going to Georgia, which makes sense considering the fact that he's from Warner Robins or whatever it is. But I think for USC, they've kind of erased him, even though he's a verbal commitment. We all know what verbal commitments can mean sometimes. So in this case, I think when he gets there to Columbus, he won't be verbally committed to USC anymore. My money would probably be on Georgia, but once he gets to Ohio State, you never know. You've got a chip and a chair. And as you said, Ohio State makes a really compelling case for any player, certainly a defensive player. The way that we're playing defense at such a high level And this year's defense is going to be legendarily good. I mean, this will be statistically one of the best, if not the best, defenses in school history. A little difficult to compare eras. Yeah, I think that 73 defense only gave up 70 points or whatever it was, but different time. They were running the ball more. But just from a dominance standpoint, from a yards per play standpoint, from an SP standpoint, I just think it's going to be a defense for the record books for Ohio State, and for defensive players, they're going to take, that's going to get their attention. So for a player like this, I don't know if we're going to get him, but I can tell you right now, USC isn't getting them. He's going to decommit and move on to another program.
Totally agree. All right. Sean Schrock, thank you for the 5. Thank you for being an ultra member as well. Hey, Kirk, I just wanted to welcome Kristen Roberts to the Scoop family. We're lucky her son Nate chose to play at Ohio State. Well, welcome, Kristen. I hope you are enjoying yourself on our Scoop chat. Your son has got a very bright future. I think Nate is probably the best tight end in the country of the guys I've looked at. I think honestly he could play for us this year. I think we need a guy like him. Some of these guys really need to get rolling in this tight end room. So, Kristen, tell your son to get ready to play early, because with his skill set and his toughness, he's got a really good shot to play next year. Because some of these guys got to step up and they got to get rolling. But this kid's got all the tools. He's a big dude, about 6'5", 235, which means I want to be probably 250 within a year or so. But got a lot of talent, and I'm really excited about him. Kid that we need to break down. We haven't broken him down on a show yet, but I watch all of our commitments, and I watch all of the guys that we offer, just so I kind of have a little mental database when we're talking about them. But a lot of talent, and excited for what he can do. I think he'll love playing in Chip Kelly's offense. Chip Kelly did great things with the Eagles, with some of the times they had Zach Ertz. They're really, really productive. So he loves his tight ends. So there's some really cool plays that are on Twitter of him kind of hiding and disguising plays with the tight ends. And I think that there's going to be some stuff that will open Nate up. So tell him to get on that jugs machine and keep working on his hands, because we will throw him the ball with Chip Kelly running the show, believe it or not. Nevada, Sean Schrock says, hey, Kirk, just want to welcome Kristen Roberts to the Scoop family. We're lucky her son Nate chose to play at OSU. Your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. And we always say on Scoop, you never know who's going to be on here. We have lots of parents. We have lots of people on the Buckeye Scoop website. Lots of people here on the podcast. You never know who's going to be watching or listening. But it's funny that you mentioned that about the plays, though, Kirk, because I was watching some of the same plays you were seeing on Twitter, and some of the stuff that Chip does in terms of disguising the way that they show the action one way, then kind of leak the tight end out the other way. UCLA got some freebies. I mean, that's the great thing about the way he ran offense at UCLA was, his stuff is designed to deceive the defense. It's not to defeat the defense. It's to deceive the defense. So you have guys running like wide open. And, I think for a quarterback like Will Howard, Will Howard is the perfect Chip Kelly quarterback. He is the ideal quarterback. And that's not the same for everybody's not the ideal Chip Kelly quarterback. But to have a quarterback like Will, who's big and strong and rugged and used to throwing to the tight ends and used to throwing to guys like that, he's going to do such good things. And I think that when they hand it off and they hand it off to the next guy after he's gone, I think the Chip Kelly offense is going to utilize the tight end more. I think we're going to see I think we'll see more wide open touchdowns this year than we have in the past 10 years combined. That's how good I think Chip Kelly is in terms of running his stuff. It's going to be different. It'll feel different. It'll look different, and it's going to make life a lot easier on offensive linemen. It's going to make life a lot easier on the quarterbacks. And I think we'll realize that we've been doing offense on hard mode, and Chip Kelly's going to put it on easy mode for us. And I think we're all going to enjoy the show.
Oh, I really, really want to play this play in Nevada, but I don't want to get zinged.
I know you do, but you're going to get zinged. You're going to zing us. You're going to zing us, but I know you want to show the play.
This is the play right here. So this is the guy, and I'm going to play it. And if we get zinged, then I'll pay the penalty. But watch this tight end right here. This is amazing. I'm going to play it one time, and then you guys are going to have to rewind it on your own. So he blocks and he releases, and they run like a power stretch play, and he's back there just wide open. And it's like, you guys are going to have to go back and rewind it. But that's the kind of stuff he draws up, where it's like, it's a full motion, like off to the side. And he blocks for a split second. And it's just amazing, like when you watch a guy who schemes like this, how good it is for the offense, because it's literally a play like anybody could make that play because he's just so wide open. Like you don't have to win some crazy route. But I'm actually gonna see. Can I get the old grease board going for 2 seconds? And give me 1 second, guys. All right. So I'm actually gonna draw it real quick. So he basically runs. So I'm just gonna draw the offensive part. So you got your tight end over here. You got your quarterback, and you've got like your speed sweep guy, which is like, that honestly, that's Vernell Brown. Like this is a perfect guy for this. But they basically run, you got the running back as the lead blocker here. They do the jet sweep. You shuffle with it like you're reading the guy front side. And you've got this tight end. He blocks this end right here. And he does like a 2 count, where in his head he counts like 1,001, 1,002. And then he like shucks them, like, because these guys, they wear like chest protectors, like on the shoulder pads, like, kind of the breastplate, and they shuck him down to the ground. And then he just leaks out over here. But with all of this reach, all the linemen going this way, you got the lead block coming this way, you got the jet coming this way. When you have all this stuff going this way, I got to go opposite. You're going this way. And then, so all of, like, you look at the safeties, they're down and they start cheating over, and you get the linebackers flowing over. And again, you can rewatch it, and they just completely forget about this guy. And it's just like, he shuffles it, he pulls it, and he just dots it right there for a wide open touchdown. So again, that's a Chip Kelly staple, is just designing stuff that just completely screws the defense. So again, Kristen, I know you're in here, and I know your son's excited to play in Chip Kelly's offense, but tell him to watch that play, because that is awesome, and say, hey, we want more of these wide open touchdowns, because those are always fun to catch. Jim Jackson, thank you for the 5. Kirk, my queen, and Mrs. Jackson just opened a salon in Central Ohio. She's amazing. Will you please treat Kim to a service? What's the name of it, Jim? I need to let you know. Put that in the chat. I'll try to find it. We'll give you guys a shout out, figure out where it's at. And then we will promote it, because that's what we do. So there's probably some people on here. Some of you guys probably need to get your toes done, and your nails done, your hair done. So holler at you. I'm not talking about the females much. Some of you guys probably looking pretty gnarly right now, so you can get them nails done. So I know Nevada is good for a mani-pedi about probably once every week or so, because he's fancy like that. But Nevada, Jim Jackson's wife, is opening a salon in Central Ohio. She's amazing. Have you ever had a manicure or a pedicure in Nevada?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. That's what that.
You're having one right now. Like, oh, I'm sitting in the chair right now. I got my headphones on.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I wish. I would. No, that's one of life's simple pleasures. If you haven't done that, especially like the manicure part, we've all kind of done that. But the pedicure is underrated goodness. I'm just telling you. There's nothing worse than having your feet be funky, like one of your toenails is kind of like funky or drive in there or something like that. Yeah, give yourself a treat. Get yourself a mani-pedi. You will not regret it. And if you do regret it, then Nevadabuck will personally apologize to you. But I think that you'll be pleased with the results. So mani-pedis for everybody on the site now. Let's go.
Excuse me. G Chima for life. Thank you for the deuce. Chances we land DK. He said OSU would be hard to beat. Well, we've got the development. We've got the NIL. We've got the offense. So, is Texas our biggest threat? Absolutely. Can we beat Texas? Sure. Again, if I'm selling to this kid, I'm saying, look, Texas is, Xavier Worthy went 32 overall. Our guy went 4th overall. And just look at the wide receiver draft history. Look at the offense. You'll have Arch for 2 years after Quinn Ewers goes pro after this year, after his senior year. But who's going to be your quarterback year 3? Like here, you got Tavian St. Clair. He's going to be your guy, along with, whoever else. I mean, think about Ryan. He's never going to settle for subpar quarterback play. Like we had subpar quarterback play last year, and he made wholesale changes. It was like a fire engine change in that room to make it better, to go get Will Howard. So again, I think that's something I'd sell if I'm these guys. I'm like, look, if guys aren't performing at that position, we're going to make sure we get it right. And Ryan Day and Chip Kelly feel like they got it right by going out and getting Will Howard. And it's going to be exciting to see what we could do on offense with him. Nevada, chances we land our boy DK. He said OSU would be hard to beat. I mean, I agree with him. If I'm a wide receiver, there's no way in the universe I go anywhere other than Ohio State, because you got to give yourself the best chance to succeed. Go to the league. Again, as great as it is to drive a leased Lamborghini, that's just like short term. I'd rather nose to the grindstone, go out and grind and work. And that's the culture of Zone 6, man. Because guys like J.J. Smith and Carnell and Ennis, those guys don't go out. Those guys work. Those guys are working out at night. Those guys are on the Monarch machine. And it's honestly, I think it's amazing. I think it's great. Those guys, they've got a singular focus. They didn't come up to Ohio just to kick it when they're from. They could have gone to Miami or could have gone to SC or could have gone, places where little bit nicer climate, little bit more to do nightlife wise. They're not. They're here to grind. And I think that's the culture you need to inflect on a kid like DK. Is, hey, we're here to work and get our work in, be out of here in 3 to 4 years, and go to the league and have a long career in the National Football League, which is all of these kids' dreams, which is great. I mean, I love that. I want all of our guys to be 3-and-out guys, because that means that they're really good, and we're going to win a lot of football games with really good players. Nevada, chances we land DK. He said OSU would be hard to beat.
I think we're going to be hard to beat as well. I mean, that's what he was saying this whole weekend. You've given Ohio State every buying sign, and as you said, every logical reason points to Ohio State. And frankly, for me, the school that I was most concerned about him through the entire recruitment was LSU. I think LSU was the one school. LSU had some wide receivers drafted. There he was committed there. And so when he decommitted, to me, that was, obvious, Captain Obvious, but that was a huge thing. But that was the school I was worried most about. I really think that we had the edge over Texas. I really believe that for a kid like Dakorien Moore, I think the NIL with Texas and Ohio State is going to cancel itself out. So in kind of a weird way, when NIL cancels itself out, then it goes back to company relationship, then it goes back to style of offense, then it goes back to, or it's always been about NFL riches. I mean, NIL money, even though it's a lot, I don't care who you are. If you get $200,000 or $500,000 or $100,000 at age 18, that is a ton of money. And I'm never going to discount that. But compared to $30 million a year or $40 million a year, it's a pittance. And I think most of these kids can kind of do that math. Most of these kids can do that calculation. And I know that he got that full treatment this weekend. And so I agree. I think he said Ohio State's going to be hard to beat. I think Ohio State's going to be extremely hard to beat. And that's why I think he ends up here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Got some Sanchez tape on here since our guy, I think, is in the chat. Appreciate you, my man. So threw your boy up on the screen, watching him get some picks and dominate. Sanchez family, we appreciate you guys so much. Jeffrey Reese, thank you for the 5. Does Sherrone Moore have to serve a show cause? It would seem odd to hold a job for a first-time coach. Yeah, I mean, he absolutely would have to serve it. And that's going to be one of the interesting things to see what goes on with the penalties for Sherrone Moore. Because, again, he was complicit in it, as was the DC. But I'm sure that he has some sort of assurances that if he got smacked, which we think he's going to get smacked, he'll be retained and they'll stand behind him, even though, all of the waters are pretty murky around the program right now. But it's like I said, somebody had to stay behind because everybody left. So, if they would have offered, the DC the job, Sherrone Moore probably would be coaching the offensive line for the Chargers right now. But they offered Sherrone the job. They made him the interim. And then everyone that wasn't offered the head coaching job basically left, which is still incredible to me, given that they just won a national championship. But that's college football, and that's getting out. That's what they call getting out while the getting is good. Nevada, does Sherrone Moore have to serve a show cause? It would seem odd to hold a job as a first-time coach.
What's interesting about Sherrone Moore's contract is his contract's different than Jim Harbaugh's. Jim Harbaugh's extension, the one that was on the table and ready to be signed, and they were all celebrating and jumping up and down, and having the feast over. It had really, really stringent language in there about how they could get out, and they had no obligation if somebody was subject to NCAA violations, due to NCAA sanctions. Sherrone Moore's doesn't have that. So I think what they're going to expect is that Sherrone Moore could get hit, and if he does, they're just going to ride with him at that point, and because they're going to be obligated to pay him anyway. So I think that was kind of a condition of him taking the job. As you said, he was the last man standing. So I think that was a concession they had to make to him during the negotiation process. But I do think he'll get hit with a show cause. But if you think about it, show causes really were designed to escape, have somebody leave from one program, go to another one. The show cause basically said that you have to show cause as to why these punishments shouldn't inure to the new institution. They don't say that they don't inure to the old institution. So for Sherrone Moore, I think he's going to live out the NCAA sanctions. He's going to be there and he's going to take his money. But for him, it's a great living because he's making 5-6 times what he ever was. In his position coach duties. So I think for him, that's just kind of the trade that they've made. And for Sherrone Moore, I think he's readily to accept it.
Yeah, because again, he's never going to have the opportunity to have a head coaching job at this level like this again. But he's gonna, like he's got to get hit in the head with the sledgehammer. But he's got, but like I said, he got $20 million or whatever they paid him, and hey, he's set for life now. So you're gonna have to deal with the team falling apart, and like I said, the recruiting is a disaster. And Ohio State is literally like they're just cruising along like a nuclear missile. Nothing's stopping them right now. But Michigan is it's just atrocious how bad it is right now. Michael Jarrett, thank you for the 10. Thing that blows my mind, people I know are up north are just oblivious. It seems legit. They can't believe, and these people I know who are smart until it comes to them, they say that we didn't cheat. I don't know how people can realistically think that they didn't cheat when, if they didn't cheat, then they would cooperate, wouldn't they? That's why Jim Harbaugh didn't cooperate, Connor Stalions didn't cooperate. There's a paper trail that's 1,000 miles long. Again, there's deny, and then there's just being stupid. And these guys are in so deep that it's like I said, if I was these guys, I would open up the gates and say, hey, come on in, and we screwed up, and God have mercy on our souls. Because, the way that, like I said, the way Michigan, handled this thing this does not bode well for how the NCAA reacts. You look at Arizona State and, with Herm Edwards when they're cheating out the wazoo, they came clean and they said, here's everything, opened up all the files, gave them every bit of evidence. Here's the text messages. Here's every bit of discovery you'd ever need. And they still got smashed, but Michigan did the opposite. They just zipped their lips and I'm not narking. See ya. Which I just think is a terrible strategy when it comes to this stuff, but this is my opinion. Nevada, your opinion on all this. The thing that blows Michael's mind, again, thank you for being an Ultra member, and thank you for the 10, is that he knows people up north who are just oblivious. It seems like they legit can't believe that these people who are smart can believe that they say that Michigan did not cheat. Which, again, I just with the video evidence, and we've played the video ad nauseum, but I'll dial that up while we're here. But what are your thoughts about it? Again, I know that Michigan fans are dumb, but the not cheating thing is almost insane. I'm gonna show this right here.
Well, but what I think that they've done, what they've managed to convince them, look, people cope with things in a lot of different ways, and I think what they've managed to convince themselves is, hey, everybody does this, so when we did it, it's not cheating. And I think that's really what they're saying when they're saying they're not cheating. And what they're missing is the part about the advanced scouting, electronic surveillance, dressing up staffers like opposing coaches with spy glasses and having them record the signals wearing sunglasses at night. that doesn't happen. And I think that's where when you're doing therapy on any of your Michigan fans, you got to break it down for them. You got to say, guys, look, it's not about science, and it's about how you guys went about doing it and the methods that you guys went about doing it that are specifically prohibited, and the fact that you did it for 40 games over 3 years involving countless, thousands of dollars in terms of stringers and, recorders and everything else that you guys did to do this. That's not normal behavior. That's not anything that anybody's ever seen before. And frankly, that is why the NCAA is treating this as the largest on-field cheating scandal in the history of college football. And the punishment's going to be appropriate. And that's where the mind disconnects for them, is they're convinced everybody does this, and no, everybody doesn't do what you guys did, and that's why it's going to be so harsh for you.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's the thing that's it's interesting is yeah, and you've said it a million times, you're allowed to steal signs. I mean that was very common, but you're not allowed to self scout and send people out, dressed as stringers and film signals, and to the level that Michigan did it is completely insane. You can steal signs in football. I mean, I'm sure it happens at high school, college, NFL, whatever. But you can't send the forward scouts that can video the signals, and and then you're buying all these tickets across from the bench where the guy can sit there and hold his iPhone and video the stuff. I mean, that's completely illegal, and they knew that. I mean, that's the thing is, that's where the line is drawn. There's stuff that you can get away with, and there's stuff that you absolutely can't get away with, and that's they went way over the line, and again, that's why they're going to get smashed. So again, I'm excited about it, and every day that goes by is going to be a day closer to them getting crushed. I can't wait. Michael Jarrett, again, thank you for the 20. Thanks for being an Ultra member as well. I know you've talked about with me before, and my friends are like, why didn't CJ? I think you're saying run for the first down, which we know would have resulted in bigger things for him and cement him as a Buckeye god. Why didn't he? It just blows my mind still. I think he's talking about CJ not running for first downs, especially versus Michigan and some of the games. Now he ran versus Georgia finally, but I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks that it was self-preservation because he wants to obviously not risk injury for the NFL draft. Part of me thinks it's probably Ryan maybe telling him not to, because we never ran any designed quarterback runs for the last few years. Again, we haven't had a Russian quarterback from QB1 in 3 years, Nevada? 4 years?
3 years.
Stroud?
Yep.
3 years. So, and that's in modern college football, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's literally like if you had an NBA team that didn't make a 3-pointer in an entire game or something. When, the QB run is like the modern National Basketball Association 3-pointer, where it's just so overpowered. You have to exploit it, and you have to build your offense around it. You have to feature it, because people can't defend it, especially when you do RPOs and read options, and and you actually run the quarterback with it. It's impossible to defend, especially with the level of talent that we have at receiver and at running back. And I think that honestly, Chip Kelly is going to force Ryan Day to see the light and say, Ryan, you're really good at offense, but you're a dummy when it comes to fully exploiting defenses and running the quarterback. And I think Chip is going to force Ryan to see the light, and he's going to run Will Howard, which is why you go out and get a big 6'5", strong quarterback, because I'll tell you what, man, you get Will running this off. No one's going to stop this offense. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. And even Devin can run too. So I think that that's going to be a difference maker. But I don't know. I mean, CJ, he had that long run versus Michigan State for a touchdown. So he's got wheels. I mean, and the thing that kills me is he runs not all the time in the NFL, but he'll scramble and go pick up a first down. And that's all I ever wanted. I'm like, dude, I don't want him to be Tommy Frazier. I don't want him to be a triple option guy. I don't want him to drop his shoulder into a linebacker and dislocate it. But I do want him, when there's a giant patch of green grass in front of him, to go run and take 8 free yards and make it 2nd and 2, because that's not asking for much. And again, I played with Troy Smith, who was, if Troy didn't scramble, and again, it's not a called run. He had a feel where, hey, if stuff's covered, if they're in man coverage and none of the guys are looking at me, the cornerbacks are running off of the receivers, and I can go get 25 yards, I'm going to do that. And again, you go watch that 04 Michigan game, that 05 Michigan game. We don't win we don't win without him running. We really don't. And honestly, I thought Troy was better in 05 when he ran more than he was in 06 when he was refusing to run. He barely ran it in 06 because he wanted to be a pocket guy. He's thinking NFL. And again, I love Troy to death. But you get that, there's always a stigma now where, oh, is he a runner? Oh, can he really throw it from the pocket? And so Troy was really cognizant about, we didn't run our best play from 05 because Troy didn't run it the way that he did in 05, 8 load. But I thought that he, like when he ran, it killed teams. And again, like we sucked in 04 and we beat Michigan because Troy ran. And he created. It's not just running; he's just creating on the run, throwing on the run. Like I saw, like the scrambles against Michigan when they're in man coverage were just unbelievable because you just hear the whole crowd going crazy because he's running for like 40 yards, and breaking their backs on 3rd and 10. It's just something else. But yeah, CJ didn't run. Nevada, Michael Jarrett, again, thank you for the 20. Says, I know you talked with me and my friends about why CJ didn't run for first down, which would have resulted in bigger things. Which, again, that's Georgia, Michigan. Like, the games where we really needed him to do that and just go make plays, he didn't do it. And again, I'm not blaming CJ for that, but I'm just saying he could have, he would have doubled his production if he would have just if he would have made defenses honor the QB run, I think he would have been 10 times better in college. And he already was number 2 pick in the draft. So, I mean, how much higher could he have gone? I don't know. But it would have helped us out dramatically, especially from a running game perspective, because it's really easy to stop teams when they don't run the quarterback. Nevada, he said if he would have ran, it would have resulted in bigger things and cemented him as a Buckeye god. Why didn't he? So blows my mind. Your thoughts, Nevada?
Oh, I think it had to be a Ryan Day directive. As you pointed out earlier, we have not had a rushing touchdown out of our starting quarterback in 3 years, which is, during those 3 years, I think Will Howard's had 19 or something like that. So it's an obscene statistic. It has to be coming from the head coach. They have to be directed to do that because, look, CJ's first meaningful play as a Buckeye, but like you said, was a 48-yard touchdown run. So he's got the ability. He's shown it at the Texans. That had to be a Ryan Day thing. I think he was afraid of getting the quarterbacks hurt, and I think it really hampered the offense. And I think that will be the biggest single difference in the offense this year is Chip Kelly's willingness and eagerness to use the quarterback as a significant running constraint to the defense, especially around the goal line and in the red zone and in short yardage. I think it's going to be the difference. I think our offense is going to look radically different because of that. But I think all that stuff on CJ was coming from Ryan Day. I really do believe that.
Yep. I totally agree with you. Pooh Beard at 12. Thank you for the 10. This is great. You always have the funniest comments on here. I appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the ultra member. Thank you for the 10. Problem with leasing a Lambo is inevitable want to own it. I want that Ferrari, and I only drove it for a weekend. If you aren't developed to the NFL, that Lambo will quickly become a Corolla. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, these kids are in college and, Lamborghini of Austin or whatever gives these little leases out. They give Bijan one and it's great. But I just think that putting a college kid in a Lamborghini is the dumbest, especially a freshman. Maybe if he's a junior, I could see it. But man, you put a freshman in a Lambo, you're just asking for the kid to wreck it, the kid to get hurt himself. No kid needs to be in a car that powerful. Like, let's just be real. But no, I agree. Like, I mean, I think that, it's kids, and Jamie's a great kid. So, this is nothing negative. It's like, sometimes kids say things and you wonder their intentions. And again, I hope Jamie ends up a Buckeye. I really do. I really like that kid. I've heard nothing but great things about him. But, I think that there's something to sometimes like the quarterback driving a pickup truck instead of a bends. Like, like some of these guys, like when Tom Brady first was the starting quarterback with the Patriots. Now, granted, he got older and he's driving wherever he wants, but he'd drive like an F-150 to practice and park it in the parking lot. And so it's like you set a certain mentality when you've got your quarterback who could drive anything driving a pickup truck. I mean, Jim Trussell, who I love and was making $5 million a year, used to, during training camp, he would drive this old, beat up, crappy Dodge Ram pickup truck that was probably 40 years old. I'm not even kidding. And I don't even think it didn't even have power windows. And then when he was coaching in 11 and 10, he had it was a Chevy 2-door pickup, and it didn't have power windows. And he asked me, because he I don't know if you guys know this about Tress, but he's a big wood shop. Like, he loves to make stuff. He had a big at his house in Upper Arlington. He had this big shop where he would make cabinets and all this other stupid stuff. That was his release, was to go out and build a cabinet. Because I don't know if he's like part Amish or what it is, but he would get done with cutting wood all day, and he'd call me up and say, "Hey, Bart, I got a load of stuff. Can you run this to the dump?" And I'd be like, "Of course, coach." So I'd drive over to the house, jump in his 2-door truck, and I'd go unload the wood, at a dumpster down the road. Because again, he's my guy, and I was like his soldier. I do whatever he told me to do. But I was just like, I can't believe this guy makes $5 million a year, and he drives a truck with cloth seats, and I had to roll the window up. Like I was like, I didn't know they still made these, but that's trust. And again, but it set a certain tone when you see his old beat up Dodge sitting in the parking lot, as we'd go into training camp. I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be a good work day today when Tress has got the old busted, rusted out Dodge that he used to love. Thank God he finally got rid of it for another car that had rolling windows, which I still can't believe that I actually had to drive a car that had that. But hey, that was Tress, man. I don't know, Nevada. Your thought, Pooh Beard. Again, thank you for the 5. Thanks for being an ultra member. It says, problem with leasing a Lambo is the inevitable want to own it. I don't know, because I've driven a Lamborghini. I've driven a couple Lamborghinis. I don't want anything to do with it. By the time I get out of that thing, man, I don't even want to look at it again. I never want to go in it again, because I don't fit, and they're just grossly expensive, and they're not practical. Which again, I'm not. And again, anyone that owns them, God bless you guys. Appreciate you guys. You guys do you. But yeah, I'd rather get my kid another pair of hockey skates, or fly him to wherever he has to go for his hockey tournaments instead. And he says he wants that Ferrari. He only drove for a weekend. If you're already developed, that Lambo will quickly become a Corolla. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just don't see. I mean, look, I think there's a series of possible outcomes that can happen with an 18-year-old with a Lamborghini, and I think about 99% of them are bad. And it's hard for me to come up with really even a good one. I think the best possible outcome is that nothing horrible really happens, and when that's generally your outcome, matrix there, that's probably a bad investment on your part. But yeah, I mean, kids say the darndest things, kids do the darndest things. Jamie, I hope that that's not a big part of Jamie's decision. And I'm hopeful that he ends up at Ohio State. And if he ends up at Ohio State, I hope he's not driving a Lamborghini. And because I can't even imagine. I'm just so practical. I just where do you park that? Do you have to have a guard? Stand outside the car.
That's the first thing I think of. That's the first thing I think of.
Yeah.
And you're going to be on you're going to be on campus, parking that in a garage on campus, or parking it on the flat lot, or driving it downtown, or taking it to Easton or Polaris. I'm just dude, really? I mean, because that's a thing. If you have a Lambo, you probably have a daily. You're not driving a Lambo every single day. I mean, come on, that gets old, especially in Ohio where it snows for 6 months a year. But that's the first thing I think of is how gaudy is too gaudy. You get to certain levels of cars like G-Wagons and things that stand out. You're just saying, please smash my windows, please. I have something important in here that you can take. But that's the first thing I think of. But no, go ahead and finish. Sorry for interrupting you.
No. I mean, I just, I've driven those cars before, and yeah, I'm just terrified the whole time that I'm in the car that something bad's going to happen, and I'm going to hit somebody. And you pointed this out on another podcast. There's nothing cheap about maintaining those cars. Nothing.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
an oil change is like $6,000, and heaven forbid you bump into anything, then it's end of days. And you're gonna. I know these guys are getting a lot of money on NIL, but do you really want to spend whatever they have to? I mean, I can't imagine what the insurance is. But again, I'm being way too practical. I realize that, but I think about this stuff. Like, hey, if I'm gonna have a date, I'm gonna take a girl and we're gonna go to the movies. Where am I gonna park that thing? I'm gonna park it like. I'm just like, what am I going to do? I don't know. I'd have to have somebody like come with us and drive in another car and then stand behind my car and wait for it and watch. I mean, I don't know, but yeah.
Well, that's the best part.
I'd be stressed out the whole time. I'd be stressed out the whole time.
That's the best part. Is like the car's so nice that you don't even want to drive it. You'll be like, well, I got my Lambo, but we're just going to Uber to the movies. Is that okay? Because then I'll just be in my garage and I'll have peace of mind. I can eat my large popcorn and my snow caps and my Diet Coke and my pretzel cheese or whatever you get. I don't even know what you get, but that's what would end up happening. Is you just end up leaving it in your house because you're like, oh, I can go and watch the Titanic in the theaters and just enjoy myself and have a good time and eat my endless bowl of popcorn. Or I can go to the one where you actually have like the little Geppetto that you can dial up and they'll bring you the popcorn. You don't have to get out. I mean, in the perfect world, they could probably
I'm getting hungry right now just you're talking about it, man. It sounds so good. I can't wait to get some movie theater popcorn. Let's go.
I'm telling you, like you'll get just go. You're the last of the Mohicans that still goes to the movies all the time. So I'm just very proud of you, and you keep that driving, or you keep that place going, man. I'm telling you.
I do.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts, Nevada?
No, just great weekend for Ohio State. I think it's a keystone weekend for them. I think they made big inroads, and there's going to be some big results, and they could be quicker than you might even think. So stay tuned, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Absolutely appreciate you guys as always. Thank you for kicking it with us. Another great night on Buckeye Scoop. Thank you so much. Again, this is a huge show because you guys made it one. Appreciate all of you guys on here kicking it. The chat was electric as always. So thank you to all of the Scoop 19. Thank you to our moderators, the four of you, the Fearsome Foursome. We appreciate you guys keeping the chat nice and clean. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Again, every little bit helps, as you guys keep pushing this to your friends. Anybody that loves Ohio State football, loves college football, send them a link. Say, hey, check it out. It's a fun show. Very lighthearted. We have a great time. We love kicking with you guys. Get people to subscribe. And also, like I said, those likes are huge for driving the metrics on YouTube that help propel this episode up the charts. So you guys are a big reason why we are who we are. We appreciate that. So again, shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. As always, we appreciate you guys so very much. Shout out to my Southern Ohio boys. Shout out to my Florida boys, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, all throughout Ohio, especially Southern Ohio, my homies, Youngstown, Cleveland, Central Ohio, obviously my Central Ohio people, Dayton, Indiana, everywhere, Texas, California, all over the globe. You guys are all over the globe. We get the analytics. It's stunning where you guys are watching from. It's awesome, and we appreciate you guys so very much. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great night. Go Bucks.